This is a video I'm doing. I had to get away from my birds downstairs, but haven't done a video in a while, and I'm going to be doing a couple of videos. I'm going to be doing a series on what's wrong with religion, and not what's wrong with it, but why it's bad, and just overall. I've had a couple of things happen in my life which have brought this up, and I figured, you know what, let me just do a series of videos talking about that subject. But before I go into that subject, because I know once I put those videos up, I'm going to get comments and questions. So what I wanted to start off with is defining my terms. If you ever watch The Atheist Experience, they talk about, tell us what you believe and why you believe it. And so I want to make sure that when I'm speaking on these things, that people understand the terms, because a lot of times it takes me about 15 comments in a discussion with someone to even have them understand what I'm talking about and the words that I'm using and the meaning of the words that we're using. So, so I'm just going to go through this video. It's just a going through terms and definitions as best to my knowledge is how they apply. So let's talk about first off atheist and theist. All right. So and agnostic. We'll talk about all three of them. So first of all, a theist is someone who believes in God. And I'm going to go through the term belief in a couple of seconds, but someone who has a belief in God, whatever evidence that they have taken, whatever faith they are using, they have a belief. Okay, a belief is not knowledge; it is a belief. So a theist is someone who believes in God based upon whatever reasons they want to come up with. An atheist, A meaning not, is someone who does not believe in God. Okay, does not talk about knowledge, does not talk about proof, does not talk about I know there is not a God. It is a belief. I do not believe there is a God. Okay, for whatever reasons that there are. Doesn't mean that we hate God or there is that is the worst one. The most annoying one to me is when people say, oh, you hate God. Why do you hate God? I don't hate something that doesn't exist. I don't hate unicorns. I don't hate leprechauns. All right, so I don't hate anything that doesn't exist. I just don't believe it exists. All right, so atheist, theist. All right, agnostic. Okay, well the word gnostic, the root word meaning knowledge. Okay, knowing something. All right, so so sometimes people say, well, I'm agnostic, and agnostic just means that you do not know. Well, as an atheist, I also am agnostic. I don't have belief in a God, but I don't know there isn't a God. Tomorrow, God might show up. Okay, he might. I might everything that I've known so far up to into this life, he might show up. I don't believe that's going to happen because I don't find sufficient evidence to believe that. But do I know? Well, no. Okay, and we'll talk about knowledge in a little bit. But so agnostic. So anyone who is agnostic, by the way, is therefore an atheist because they do not have a belief in God. If you're saying, well, I'm waiting to find more evidence, well, so am I. Okay, but there is none, so therefore you are an atheist. You can't be people think it's like atheist and theist, and then agnostic is like in the middle. Well, you can't, either you have a belief in something or you don't. It's not, there's one or the other. Now, knowledge of it, I do not have knowledge. I would believe everyone. That's why I don't like the term agnostic, because I don't believe anyone, or I believe everyone is actually agnostic. Nobody knows for certain if there is or is not a God. You can believe it very strongly, and just as strong as a theist would say, I know there is a God, is as strongly as I feel that I know that there is not a God. But if those two things are just beliefs, because neither of us truly know. All right, so so just understand those terms as far as when I'm speaking about them in my future videos or in general. Let's talk about existence, something that exists. I believe existence is something that actually manifests itself in the universe outside of our thoughts. All right, so this is going to be kind of tricky because do ideas and thoughts exist? Okay, like I have an idea or a thought right now, like for example, I'm looking at a camera. The idea of the camera is something in my head. Okay, the actual camera is something that exists. Now, when you get down to do I know there's a camera? Not really, and I'm going to talk about this when I go into a little bit more of Descartes, but do I know there's a camera there? No, I believe there's a camera there, and the camera, when I'm saying it exists, I'm saying something outside of my thought of it. So two, for example, does not really exist. The concept of two, there being two things, okay, so here's some cologne and here's my what is this stuff? My eye contact solution. This is two things. Two represents what this is. There is no in two, the number two, other than on Sesame Street, does not really exist. Okay, it is a concept. It's a language idea that we have come up with to communicate what having these items is a representation of something. Just like the camera, my visually seeing the camera right now is a representation in my brain of what I believe is really there. Okay, so, but my idea of the camera does not really exist anywhere other than it's what I think of. Okay, so I am not counting existence, and this is, now some people want to think as thoughts and those things as existing, and for my purposes I'm going to say it doesn't exist. I'm going to say something that manifests in the universe outside of our thoughts. So that's going to be my term for existence as far as it goes. All right, so next up, God. When I'm talking about God in these discussions, God, my definition of God is a sentient, intelligent being. Okay, that is something that has cognitive thoughts and actually has purpose with things that he or she or it does. Okay, you know, I'm not going to say it's all powerful and all knowledgeable and all that kind of stuff and all good, because that just goes into problem of evil and contradictions as far as that goes. So I'm not. So let's just say extremely, very, very powerful being. Okay, that is extremely intelligent. Okay, not all intelligent, not all powerful, but like for example, God couldn't make a rock so big that he couldn't lift it. Okay, so so that would be a if you're all powerful, you could do something like that, but that logically is impossible. So, so I'm just going to say a very powerful being. But God is not like people say. Well, God is love. Okay. Well, no, love is a feeling. We don't say, oh, I am in God with that person. Okay. You know, on St. Valentine's Day, we don't send God cards. We send love cards and Valentine's Day cards. Okay. Or God is the universe. Okay. No, we have a term for that called the universe. So you know, everything is God. I don't. That doesn't help me at all with a definition, and I don't think most people believe that's what God is. Now, there's going to be some people who write comments who say, well, you know, that's what I believe. I'm a pantheist or whatever. Well, great. I'm not talking about you right now. The definition of God I'm talking about is a sentient being, not a deist type of thing. Well, I guess it could be a deist, something that created and then stepped back. That thing, okay, it has a purpose, it has thoughts, it has intelligence, and it does stuff, okay. Whether it interacts with us or not, it's a being very powerful, very intelligent, that can do things. Okay, so that's God. That's going to be my definition of God. Let's talk about faith, belief, and knowledge. Okay, as far as those things go, I'm going to say with these terms, all right, my term for faith and my understanding of the word faith, as I'm going to be using it in my future videos, or in my comments, is something that people take without any evidence. Okay, I have faith in something. Now, some people use faith to mean belief. Okay, like sometimes theists say, "Oh, well, you know, you're taking that on faith. You know, you're taking science on faith." No, I'm not. I'm taking it upon having evidence. Okay, just because I have a belief in something, there is evidence for it. And so I guess I would use it as a sliding scale. Okay, so over here is faith. Okay, faith is like the low end of the totem pole. All right, so you just believe something, you have no evidence whatsoever for it. Okay, I believe, and I guess these are all knowledge. I would guess knowledge on one side, faith on the other side, and they're just levels of belief that you can have and levels of evidence that you can have. So, you know, so faith would be, I have no evidence whatsoever. There is a invisible dragon eating me right now. Okay, I believe this on faith. I have no evidence for it. I can't feel it. I can't see it. There's no reason to believe this. Okay, but right now, as it's chewing me, I don't feel it, but it's chewing me up, and I believe this on faith. I'm taking this all on faith. Okay, so now, so that's faith. So I would say faith is the very epitome of no evidence whatsoever. Okay, now you can, at some point, faith will have to turn to knowledge. Now, knowledge is the other side of the spectrum, where you have so much evidence that it is undeniably true. okay? And the only things I really feel we have knowledge of is our thoughts, okay? Like, and my personal thoughts, going back to now going to Descartes, is that I know I am thinking right now, okay? Like, I can't get any more evidence for that other than that I am thinking, and the fact that I'm thinking is telling me that I'm thinking. So, you know, I think, therefore I am type of thing. So that I would say is the epitome of knowledge, that I know that I exist, or at least I know my thoughts exist, which I know is kind of tricky because then it goes back to before when I said, well, thoughts aren't a real thing. So do we know anything really exists? No, okay? But I do know I have thoughts. That is something at least I know, whether they exist or not. I just know that they are, okay? There are thoughts, and I have them. And me thinking that confirms that. And so that is the high pinnacle of knowledge. Now, everything else in between, okay, so faith is no evidence at all, and knowledge is, you know, I exist. So that's the epitome of knowledge. So now in between is evidence, okay? So, and as you get more evidence for things, it becomes closer and closer to knowledge, okay? And then you have a belief as to what you are going to pick on this. You know, some people will say the Bible or the Quran is sufficient evidence for them to believe in the Bible. Okay, now what you can do then is you can then take the evidence and say, well, this is an evidence, this is an evidence, this, what consists of evidence, and say, well, you know, it just doesn't really, you have to kind of take it apart, all right? So let me move on to evidence, all right? Evidence and belief are scales, okay? The more evidence you have for something, the more likely you are to believe it, okay? That's what, in a trial, that's what they do. They say, okay, we have your DNA at the scene. We have you at the time of the scene of the crime. You have no alibi. We have you on videotape. We have 7 eyewitnesses. We have your DNA there. We have footprints. We have you know, we have, so all these collaborating evidences. All of a sudden, the more things that I say about it, the more evidence, the more you go towards knowledge of saying, I believe that person. My belief is going to go very high. Is guilty of this crime, okay? Because there's a lot of evidence. So the more evidence that you have, collaborating evidence, independent evidence of anything else, creates more knowledge of that thing being true or not, okay? And I would say it also would increase your belief in things, okay? So some forms of evidence, though, are stronger than other forms of evidence, all right? So that's just how it is, all right? So eyewitness testimony is really not very good evidence because people are fooled. People want to believe things that are true all the time, okay? So we're not going to take eyewitness testimony as very high. I just don't, especially, or books, you know, I don't take those as very high evidence, all right? When you're talking about DNA, I take that as higher grades of evidence. Why? Because we can do science and testable results to see it over and over again. You ask somebody what they saw, and you can ask 10 people, and 10 people will say you'll get 5 or 6 different stories on an event. So eyewitness, because the human brain is not designed, it's not a camera, okay? So videotape might be a higher level of evidence, but nowadays that could be changed. So I'm not going to go through all the different things that I consider evidence, but understand that some evidence is stronger than others, okay? Somebody claiming something is really not that high on the totem pole in my estimation. So, but again, evidence. I guess I should explain evolution, but I don't even know if I want to. Okay, here, how about this? If you want to know about evolution, go to Chadia's Spike 2's and Crash Course in Evolution and what it isn't, okay, as far as evolution goes. So, but those are just some of my terms. So when I'm speaking about these things, if you want to question, this video is done for the people who bring up words that don't make sense to me, because it is really important that when you're having a dialogue with someone that you're using the same terms for the same thing, okay? Belief and faith to me are not the same thing. Faith is just not the same, okay? Knowledge is not the same as belief, and knowledge isn't the same as faith, you know, as far as that goes. I can really truly believe that something is true, but not really know it. And just because I believe it doesn't make it true either way. And that's why we have to look for more evidence constantly. So, all right, so that's my first video. More to come.